राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारि यमुना तीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारि यमुना तीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा शील प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा शील प्रभुपादा एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिदक्षर पुत्र सरस्वती सिंह वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्था प्राचार्य शील प्रभुपाद की जय। एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिदक्षर पुत्र सरस्वती सिंह भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जेवं विष्णुपाद श्रील गौर किशोर दास महाराज की जय। जेवं विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद श्रील भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। जेवं विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य दास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत दादा शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री गौरांगी बैंगलोर ईश्वर भगवान की जय। श्री श्री राधा श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज्य भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरुवृंद की जय। समाविद भक्तवृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the Assembled Lord. This all glories to the Assembled Lord. This all glories to the Assembled Lord. This all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayanti. Hey, Nashtaprayeshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishti. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 1, text 6 and text 7. First we read text 6. Tam Kamayanam Bhagavan Vaha Yajusham Patihi Tushtayam Toshamapanno Janayad Dvadasat Shatmachan Tam Kamayanam Bhagavan Vaha Yajusham Patihi Tushtayam Toshamapanno Janayad Dvadashatmachan Tam Kamayanam Bhagavan Vaha Yajusham Patihi Tushtayam Toshamapanno Janayad Dvadashatmachan. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The lord of the ritualistic performance of Yajna later married Dakshina, who was anxious to have the personality of Godhead as her husband. And in this wife, the Lord was also very much pleased to beget 12 children. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. An ideal husband and wife are generally called Lakshmi Narayana to compare them to the Lord and the goddess of fortune. For it is significant that the Lakshmi Narayana are forever happy, that Lakshmi Narayana are forever happy as husband and wife. A wife should always remain satisfied with her husband, and a husband should always remain satisfied with his wife. In the Chanakya Sloka, the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandita, it is said that if a husband and wife are always satisfied with one another, then the goddess of fortune automatically comes. In other words, where there is no disagreement between husband and wife, all material opulence is present and good children are born. Generally, according to Vedic civilization, the wife is trained to be satisfied in all conditions, and the husband, according to Vedic instruction, is required to please the wife with sufficient food, ornaments, and clothing. Then, if they are satisfied with their mutual dealings, good children are born. In this way, the entire world can become peaceful, but unfortunately, in this age of Kali, there are no ideal husbands and wife, therefore unwanted children are produced, and there is no peace and prosperity in the present world. Text number 7. Toshaha pratoshaha santosho padrashantir idaspatihi ipmaha kavir vibuhu swanaha sudevo rochano vishad. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The 12 boys born of Yajna and Dakshina were named Tosha, Patosha, Santosha, Bhadra, Shanti, Idaspati, Ibma, Kavi, Vibhu, Swahna, Sudeva, and Rochana. Om Gyan Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshur Medamena Tasmai Se Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Prabhupada Tadati Swapanadikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sakrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Kamsijivam Sadvaitam Sabdutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanuste Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Vasunubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavarna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Moham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lange Divya Padam Malve Shuddharam Janatharnam Paramanda Madam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So in this fourth canto we see here this first chapter we are discussing on the Lord is addressed as Yajna. So actually many people perform fire sacrifices, but generally people don't know that what is the purpose of a fire sacrifice that is being performed. The Lord is the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. The benefits of the sacrifices are also given by the Lord to the performer. And one of the name for this is Lord's name is Yajna, because he is the beneficiary of all the sacrifices. So it is also said that the Lord is never alone; he is always with his consorts. Now, when a sacrifice is performed, it is said to be complete when some dakshina is given to the performer, and that's why the Lord's name is also just like Lord is the beneficiary of the is the owner of the proprietor of the sacrifices. His wife is known here as Dakshina, or who is none other than an expansion of the goddess of fortune. The Lord himself states in Bhagavad Gita that Bhoktaram Yajnastapadam Sarvalokeshwara Maheshwara. He is the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. He is the one who gives the results of all the sacrifices, not any of the demigods, which normally people have a misconception or misunderstanding. So that is the reason he is called Yajna, and this Yajna can never be existing without Dakshina. This is another understanding. So if we see even in all the other instances, like people worship Lakshmi Narayana, Sita Rama, or Lakshmi Narasimha, and so forth. So the Lord is never alone, he is always with his consorts. And just like all the expansions, like Narayana, Narasimha, they are all expansions of Krishna. Similarly, all the expansions from the feminine part, that is Lakshmi, Saraswati, or so many feminine expansions are there. They are all coming from Srimati Radharani. Radharani herself is an expansion from Lord Krishna. But we must understand they are not on the mundane platform like us. So similarly here we see that Yajna and Dakshina were born together, but they are not like brothers and sisters, but they are playing the part of Dakshina being the consort of the Lord as Yajna. And one of the main reasons why the Lord performs these pastimes is to see how the conditioned souls can be brought to Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, and then taken back to the original home, that is the spiritual world. And in all these things, they perform some pastimes which are a suitable example for conditioned souls like us to adopt. In fact, it is not only the Lakshmi Narayana or Lakshmi Narasimha. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of the who is a spiritual master of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a perfect example of a Grihastha, which we will also discuss. So, in this purport, it is mentioned as to how they lead a very successful life as a family life, and what can we imbibe then from them in our Grihastha life. We'll understand a little bit about what a Grihastha life is about, and what are the things we can imbibe from them based on the purport that is given here. So generally, if we see, there are always differences of opinion in every household today between the husband and wife. But what is the reason for this? This we have to try and understand. Generally, what used to happen from the Vedic perspective was the Lord has devised this vivaha or marriage as a samskara with uh, a boy from one side and the girl from the other side, and both have their individual characteristics. Now, when we say individual characteristics, the boys or girls, whomever were there, they used to be trained at home, even from their very childhood, by the elders who were present. Now, if you see earlier, people used to live in a joint family. Now, what they call as a nuclear family, the husband and wife want to stay separately along with their children instead of a joint family concept. So, with the result, what used to happen was in the house there were many elders. There used to be 3 or 4 families which used to stay together if there was sex. Earlier, generally, uh, they used to have about 6 children, 7 children, 8 or even 9 children. Not, I'm not talking about too far away. I'm talking about 20, 30 years before. People used to have so many children, and they used to live a very happy life. Why they led a happy life, which today the current generation they are not able to realize, is what we must try to find the reason about. So, because there were many elders in the family, the children were under the custody of these elders, and they used to chastise right from the beginning, and they used to correct them, and they used to be brought up in a very uh, uh, good environment, which was deprived of sense gratification. But as the Kali Yuga is progressing day by day, and the concept of nuclear family has started, the children are brought under the custody of a caretaker or a nursery school or somebody else who is there. So the children don't have that affection for the parents themselves, and there are no elders to correct them. With the result that wherever they are put, the children are left under the care of the for the purpose of sense gratification. So if you see very small children, also 2 years or 3 years, they are used to playing mobile. Now, if we all know what are the contents that are displayed in the mobile on a day-to-day basis, which corrupts the children at a very young age itself. So when they grow up, they are not groomed in a proper in the mode of goodness, which used to be prevalent before, and they are more or less in the mode of ignorance, mostly in the mode of ignorance, if not somewhat of a mode of passion or a combination of both. So the children of yesteryears, the boys were used to be trained in brahmacharya, that is celibacy. They never had contact with women outside because there was no social clubs. So they used to go outside, work, and the girls always after school. In fact, in the earlier years, girls were never sent to school. Also, they used to be trained for chastity at home itself. So they never had, there was no free mixing of a boy and girl. But today in the school itself, they learn how to mix freely between the boy and girl. So both of them have lost their chastity and celibacy. With the result, there is no value of a decent life when they get married also. Most of the cases, the children have had multiple affairs with the opposite sex today, even before marriage, which is true. Most of the cases, I'm not saying there might be exceptions also, but most of the cases. And the education that was given in the schools yesteryears were based on sattvic background, not like today based on television, tablet, and mobile, etc. So, with the result, the children were basically good in nature, and the society was not as disturbed as we see today. Not only that, as they grow up, when the boy finishes his studies, either he joins his father's business or he takes up the service of a Kshatriya or even as a Brahmana, they take up these services outside. There is a lot of challenge outside, even in the earlier years. But they were peaceful and they were satisfied with whatever earnings they had. None of them were unsatisfied. Today, in spite of whatever they earn today, there is no satisfaction in them. And there are a lot of difficulties also. Money doesn't come very easily. One who works outside knows that one has to go through a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges, and then money comes. In the process, what happens is that the husband who goes out and goes through a lot of frustration, when he comes back home, the wife is there to take care of him in every respect. Now, when I say every respect, the wife takes care of him by giving him nice food and emotional satisfaction that the husband is looking for. So the husband always felt that he has got someone to take care of him when he comes back home. And it was also the duty of the husband to take care of his wife by providing basic necessities like food, clothing, shelter. This is what the girls in the Esther years used to expect. And they were trained to be satisfied under whatever circumstances they were in. They never had any room for grievance with anyone based on material background. But today, what has happened is that the women are also competing with man, which they are not supposed to. They both are supposed to supplement each other and work together in a way that they jointly live a grihastha life. That is, grihastha life means the center is Krishna, not sense gratification. So on one side, in the education system itself, the boys and girls have got corrected. And the girls want to achieve as much as or even more than what the boys have achieved. The society today calls that as gender equality. Now, gender equality is something that cannot happen. God has not given that privilege. A woman is made in such a way that is, she has got her own role to play in a family by giving birth to children, giving that support, emotional support which a child needs, and taking care of the child at home, by which she doesn't have any vested interest, develop vested interest outside of married life. And the child also requires that emotional support from her parents, which is lacking today. And the husband, like I mentioned, he also struggles and comes back, but he has got somebody to take care of him the moment he comes back. Nowadays, what happens is that both of them go out to work. After that, both of them are tired. They don't have time to give to each other, not for the children. They sit in front of the TV. So the child is inspired from the very young age itself to sense gratification. The food is ordered, it is delivered at home by so many people who deliver it, whatever you want. So that is another mode of contamination. So that is how the life in a married life has got degraded. And generally, before marriage, the marriage between a boy and girl used to be made on basis of proper matching of horoscopes. Now, it is horoscope matching. Astrology is a true science. Srimad Bhagavatam itself, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned that it's a true science. But there is a question mark whether somebody knows that science today and does the right thing, service which was done before. But until about 20, 30 years before and all, when we all used to get married, the horoscopes were always matched. Why? Because the horoscopes describe the character of a boy or a girl. And if both of them, for example, are in the same character, adaptability is very difficult. For example, In some cases, it may be adaptable, but in some cases, it need not necessarily work. For example, if a boy is a short-tempered and a girl is also a short-tempered, then what happens is that each one keep quarreling with each other. But on the other hand, if a boy is short-tempered and a girl is of a very cool mind, she has the capacity to cool down the boy also if he has lost his temper. So this way, many times this is not only the question of anger, lust or greed or anything. If you look at the anarthas that we have, the purpose of matching the horoscopes was to see the compatibility, not competency between each other. So the compatibility was there, so the marriage was successful. And because the Vedic system of marriage was adopted within every house, it was successful. There was no quarrel between the husband and wife. That is why it is said that the husband is a representative of Narayana and the woman is a representative of Lakshmi. Uh, Never you will find in the history of any of the epics that we find that husband and wife quarrel, excepting in the case of demons. But in the case of demons also, they never used to fight with each other. In fact, the wife used to respect their husband even if they were a Rakshasa. That also we have seen. So, with society having degraded today, we find so many uh, uh, quarrels, and marriage is based on external beauty or external opulences like wealth, etc. And once the process of sense gratification is achieved, then there is no more love between the husband and wife. Of course, there is no love in this material world, but there used to be a cordial relationship between husband and wife with proper understanding. It is not that there was no differences of opinion between them at all, but they used to discuss. The wife used to be submissive and understand. I'm not saying that wife has to be submissive always, even today, but there was a proper understanding between them. With proper discussions, these differences were sorted out. But these are not existing today. That's why it is said that Lakshmi Narayana or Sita Rama are perfect role models. At least in the Indian culture, we should know that with epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata and so many scriptures, we can still live a life of Vedic civilization and be a perfect example in society. In fact, Srila Prabhupada, when he was during one of his lectures in one of the European countries, he gave a quote that Siri, that is the goddess of fortune. Of course, Lord is served by many thousands of goddess of fortune. But this goddess of fortune opulence comes to a house. He mentioned three things where fools are not worshipped. That means people don't worship to take to worship of demons and demigods, etc. Second thing was where grains are stocked. Normally, there used to be a practice. Even now, there are people who practice stocking grains, not overstock for sense gratification, but sufficient grains are stocked for usage. And the third one is husband and wife don't quarrel. So, because these things don't happen today, we find there is a lot of quarrel in every house. And that is one reason the wealth also does not stay with them for a very long time. We'll go through this a little more in detail. Grihasthashrama. The word Grihasthashrama means that word comes from Ashraya, that is taking shelter, of Krishna. The center of the family life is Krishna. And the word, every activity in a particular household where Grihasthashrama is there, the center is to please Krishna, not for sense gratification. It is not possible for one to live a life of either a brahmachari or a grihastha without an ashrama. That is why the children were sent to Gurukul in the yester years. Practices, some few places still are existing. And I know some devotees who have sent their children to the Gurukul, and the children are definitely groomed much better than the outside school or college. So that ashrama is a shelter. So for the young boys and for the young boys, there used to be this Gurukula, and for the Grihasthas who are married couple, Ashraya is Krishna. And those who don't have such shelters, they live a life what is called Grihamedi, and they live a life of sense gratification. Medi means also refers to an animal who goes in circles and labors like an animal, which we see today. People live a typical uh, animalistic life, and they go about in circles for sense gratification. And the happiness that people get after working so hard is too insignificant. There is another meaning for Medi means jealous. And so wherever Grihastha live, that means uh, uh, Grihasthas live and there is some jealousy. It is not Grihastha, it is Griha Medi. And this jealousy comes out of envy. We envy somebody and then we become jealous of them. So why? Because we don't have the right understanding that everything is given by the Lord to whomever He endows. There is no question of developing envy to the others. On the other hand, we should think that if somebody has got some opulence, they are got it because of their service, because of their past karma, their service to the Lord. So this jealousy arises then when one is ignorant or blind to the knowledge of the absolute truth. But what happens is that instead of trying to hear about absolute truth, mostly people listen to things like politics, science, economics, etc., and they don't have any real interest in the realities of life. That is birth, death, old age, and disease. So the purpose of human life is to inquire. That is what a grihastha is, to inquire about the problems of life. Nobody can solve all the problems of life. We should not try wasting our time in trying to solve this problem, that problem. Material world is full of problems, but one should not waste time. So Grihamedis live for sense gratification, whereas Grihastha is a home, which is a temple of Krishna. This is the difference. So also Grihastha means caring for each other in a way that both husband and wife are maintained and spiritually centered around Krishna, and they both are engaged in the service of Krishna, preaching the glories of God. So, Grihastha is an ashrama that is a position of responsibility. There is a responsibility within the family. That responsibility is not sense gratification, but protection of spiritual interests of the family as a whole, that includes the children. The children need not be forced, but then the environment has to be created by the husband and wife practicing spiritual life in such a way that the children automatically become inspired to take spiritual life. So when parents take up their spiritual consciousness, then children automatically adopt. And this was prevalent in the Esther years. Now, another important aspect of this Grihastha Ashrama is based on renunciation. Whatever one gets, opulence, like I mentioned, is given by the Lord, and they are meant to be used in the service of the Lord, whether income or property, etc. The ashram is very important in the sense that in the other ashramas, detachment is possible very easily, but in the Grihastha ashrama, there is a tendency for one to develop attachment to material opulence. But it is difficult to practice renunciation. This is one of the difficulties that is there. So, but somehow, if one does not develop renunciation, then what happens is that one is bound in this material world and takes on to the cycle of birth and death every now and then. So, in a Grihastha ashrama, it is very difficult to become detached. But when training is given properly, then one automatically becomes even renounced, even the Grihastha ashrama. So renunciation is very, very important. So training was one of the aspects by which renunciation was developed at a very young age. Generally, the wife and husband used to be trained based on Vedic instructions, not scientific instructions. And it is the wife used to be satisfied, which is also mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, that she used to be satisfied with that nice, good food, sufficient food, good clothing, shelter, etc. Wife used to be satisfied at home. And the husband, of course, it was the duty of his duty to provide his wife and children of these basic necessities. This way, the whole world was living peacefully. And when both of them, the husband and wife, jointly to serve Krishna, Krishna becomes pleased. And when Krishna is pleased, he also ensures that the husband and wife are also living a peaceful life. So they used to be united. There used to be a lot of trust between both, and there was a lot of faith between both of them, which is lacking in today's world, because the moment both of them work outside, the husband doubts on his wife doubts on the husband. And because there is an open exposure to the society, today the women are exploited by the men, which we know there are so many instances of murders and rape, etc. And these are all the developments in the last 20, 30 years because of the media, or the way the Kali Yuga is degrading. But still, in spite of all this, there are a few householders who are living a perfect Grihastha life, and they live a perfect happy life. There used to be a system whereby whatever the husband earns, the whole family used to be living satisfactorily. There was no room for higher and higher and higher greed. That greed has developed a lot with the social media and the potential to earn a lot of income today. In the Shastras, also, there is a description that one should not try to become a father or a mother or a guru or a teacher unless one can deliver his dependents from the cycle of birth and death. So, family life means a big responsibility for both father and mother. And it is an opportunity also to seek blessings from these elders, which is very, very important. Even if one is not situated spiritually, of course, spiritually we seek blessings from senior Vaishnavas. But when many are not situated in the spiritual life, blessings from elders sometimes do matter. Examples are there in the Shastras where, for example, Sudama Brahmana and his wife, they were living a very life of literally both of them were, Sudama was very, very poor, and they could hardly sustain within themselves. But still, they lived a very happy life. And at the right time, the Lord gave Sudama Brahmana a lot of opulence also. And after they were given the opulence, they lived a life of renunciation. They were not attached to that. So this is a perfect example. Another important point that was there during the yesterday years was that there are so many samskaras that are recommended in the Shastras, which were being followed very regularly right from the time of Garbhadana, like Garbhadana Samskara, Janma, name giving ceremony. Garbhadana Samskara is a very important samskara to have good uh, spiritual child. That is what is important. Then the child in the name giving ceremony, children were used to be given the name of Lord God Himself, like Krishna, Rama, Vasudeva. So many good names used to be given. Why? Because we see in Srimad Bhagavatam itself how Ajamil got saved because he called out the name of his son was Narayana. So this is the purpose for which names of gods were given to the children. That was a samskara, but that samskara does not exist today. Children are given the names of film actors and actresses. That is why they are not able to have a spiritual life even in that level. And then Vivaha used to be a samskara, where Brahmanas used to perform the samskaras properly. Unfortunately, today the priests are also professionals. When somebody wants to have a samskara done, The first thing is they demand money, and Brahmanas are not supposed to demand. A Brahmana is one who is supposed to be satisfied with whatever he gets, but one who performs the samskara, it is the duty of them to give the charity to that Brahmana. That is what Lakshmi. And when proper charity is given, the Brahmana becomes satisfied and they are also getting the benefit out of it. But someone tries to hold it, saying that Brahmana does not have to be given, that is selfishness. So, because these days the samskaras are absent, and not only that, and because the Brahmanas who are performing the samskara are also not pure in nature, this particular aspect has also vanished to the extent that nobody believes in this, which has also added to the degradation of the conditions at home. So Lord had established this particular system in such a way that a boy, he lives a life from 1 to 25 years as a brahmacharya. Then from brahmacharya, he has two options. That is either to take up the life of a grihastha from 25 to 50, or straight away he takes up the sannyasa. This was the system that was prevalent. And then the system was that not that one who enters the grihastha ashrama, the husband and wife, live eternally in that house, being attached to the kith and kin, but the men used to go to the vanaprastha state after 50. Women were allowed to accompany men. The wife were used to be allowed to accompany husband, and they were used to be living in that vanaprastha stage from 51 to 75. And thereafter, the wife was permitted to come back home to live with her children. And the husband would take up sannyasa from 75 to 100. So this is how the system was prevalent and was a successful system. But what has happened is that they have tried to develop the culture of Western civilization, and the Westerners believe that why keep cows when there is sufficient milk available at any point, at any time. So sense gratification is available at any point, anywhere today. And that's why marriage is more than a ritual. Marriage does not exist at all. Generally, people believe in live-in relationships. They don't marry. And in the Western countries, what happens is that when they have children, up to the time they are in school, the children are with the parents. The moment they come out of the school, then the children automatically go out. It's a culture that has developed. So we are gradually following that also. So children are also lost in the society. So marriage itself as a samskara does not exist. So in order to have a good, happy married life, it is said that one should not, few important points that one should follow the regulative principles in the grihastha ashrama very strictly and very seriously. Another important aspect in a grihastha ashrama is that the other ashramas, that is brahmacharya, vanaprastha and sannyasi, there is no scope for earning for them. So it is the grihastha ashrama who normally support the other three ashramas by giving in charity. So by giving in charity, they also get the benefit of giving in charity to the other ashramas, and the other ashramas get a support also, since they don't have any means of support. Also, it is said that in a grihastha ashrama, one should have a very strong sadhana. When we say a very strong sadhana means, even today, those who live a perfect grihastha life, the husband and wife both wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock, do their sadhana. The wife, after finishing their chanting, she takes care of the cooking, takes care of the children. The husband goes out to business on his business or his work, whatever profession, whatever it is. So in this way, there is no room for sense gratification in a grihastha ashrama. But then at the same time, there is a need for good relationship between husband and wife, with Krishna in the center, and not based on physical attraction, but other areas like emotions, etc. Some examples which are there in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we find that Swayambhuva Manu. Manu means we are all originated from Manu, the mankind. Swayambhu Manu was the first emperor in the whole universe, and he had a successful household life. These are examples we can take. It is said early morning when there used to be musicians in their house, and they used to sing the glories of the Lord with musical instruments. And the emperor and his family, they all would hear these pastimes while waking up itself, and they would wake up. And it is said there are some places in North India, Western India, etc., where this custom is still prevalent in some of the royal families. And then what happens is that these musicians would also sing with Chinese and other things when the members would go to sleep. And when they hear the glories of the Lord and hear the songs about the Lord, then what happens is that they and they go to bed in a very pleasing atmosphere. They don't go to bed seeing TV serial or cinemas, with the result that they used to be hearing the glories of the Lord and go to bed in a very pleasing atmosphere. So this is how a perfect example was Swayambhu Manoj. Also, in every householder, there is usually a system. Apart from singing and hearing the glories of Lord, there is arrangement for speaking and hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita lectures, where the families used to jointly sit down, do kirtan, and hear the glories of the Lord. So when they go to bed hearing the glories of the Lord, they also dream of the Lord or the Lord's pure devotees. They don't get wild dreams or dreams of devils and demons and etc. This is a perfect example in Srimad Bhagavatam. Another example in Srimad Bhagavatam is that about Dhruva Maharaj. As you all know, Dhruva Maharaj went to forest, and after he came back, he was enthroned as the emperor. But he did not stay in the throne for a very long time. At the right time, he thought he accepted Narad Muni as a spiritual master, lived as a perfect king. He lived a perfect Grihastha life, and at the right time, based on the instruction of Narad Muni, he wound up his pastime also. And the example is given that planes from Vaikuntha came to pick up Dhruva Maharaj, and when they came, all of a sudden he remembered that it was his mother who gave him instructions to look out for God in the forest when he was asked by his father to step down from his lap. Dhruva Maharaj had a desire to be on the father's lap, but his father had another wife who asked him to step down. So Dhruva Maharaj felt insulted, and he went back and asked his mother, who said that you look for God, that is the only way. So Dhruva Maharaj went looking for God in the forest, and he came across Narad Muni, and he took a lot of austerities. So when he was winding up his pastimes, and when the Vaikuntha Vasis came to pick him up, he remembered that his life became successful because the instruction that he followed of his mother. So immediately he asked, he told them that his mother was a Shiksha Guru, and what about her? So immediately the associates of Vaikuntha, they showed Dhruva Maharaj that there is already a plane that is taking your mother also. Don't worry about that. So the point is that when one family member becomes a devotee of the Lord, the others also get the benefit of becoming devotees of the Lord. There is also a quote from by Chanakya Pandita that if a husband and wife are also satisfied with one another, then the goddess of fortune automatically comes. I have picked up a few quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a quote in first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that if a man is a businessman, an industrialist, or an agriculturist, one should try to spend his hard-earned money for the cause of the Lord. Think always that the money which is accumulated is the wealth of the Lord. Wealth is considered to be the goddess of fortune, and the Lord is Narayana, or the husband of Lakshmi. Try to engage Lakshmi in the service of the Lord Narayana and be happy. That is the way to realize the Lord in every sphere of life. That means Lakshmi Devi is none other than the consort of Narayana, and she is always with her husband, that is Narayana. So if we utilize the wealth in the service of Lord Narayana, then Lakshmi always remains with such a person. Another quote from third canto which says, this is for the materialistic people. Generally, the goddess of fortune does not remain steadily in one place. Her name is Chanchala. That means one who is not steady. Therefore, we see that many times a person may be very rich, but all of a sudden he becomes the poorest of the poor because Lakshmi has left. One example is that Ravana. Ravana took away Lakshmi. That is none other than Sita. Sita was an expansion of Lakshmi herself to his kingdom. And instead of being happy by the grace of Lakshmi, his family and all his family members and his kingdom were vanquished. So Lakshmi in the house of a Ravana is a Chanchala. That means a Lakshmi wealth in the house of a materialistic person is nothing but Chanchala. Chanchala means unsteady. So men of the Ravana's class want only Lakshmi and without her husband Narayana. Therefore, they become unsteady due to Lakshmi. So materialistic people generally find fault on the part of Lakshmi, but in Vaikuntha, Lakshmi is always fixed in the service of the Lord. And Lakshmi herself, she cannot be happy without the grace of the Lord. She needs the Lord's grace to be happy. Yeah, another important point from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, is always engaged in the service of the Lord, but still he is not attached to her. So even great demigods like Brahma worship the goddess of fortune in order to win her favor. But although the Lord is worshipped by many hundreds and thousands of goddess of fortune, he is not at all attached to any one of them. As a quote from Brahma Samhita, Lakshmi Sarasya Sambrahma Sedhyamanam. By Lord Brahma says, the Lord is served by hundreds and millions of thousands of Lakshmis. But the Lord, in spite of being served by so much of goddess of fortune, he is not at all attached to even one of them. Yeah, another canto from Srimad Bhagavatam. Material opulences are controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his different potencies and specifically the goddess of fortune. Therefore, those who are after material opulence seek the pleasure or mercy of goddess of fortune. Even the demigod worship the goddess of fortune, but the goddess of fortune, Mahalakshmi, herself is always seeking pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one who takes worship of the Supreme Lord automatically receives the blessings of Goddess of Fortune. That means many worship Lakshmi for material opulence, but one who takes to the worship of Supreme Lord Krishna automatically receives the blessings of Goddess of Fortune. Because whatever benediction she gives, that also she gives by the mercy of Lord Krishna. And the last point before I 2 points that I wanted to mention is that if both the husband and wife are satisfied with themselves, then good children are born and the world becomes peaceful. But in the age of Kali, we don't find such husband and wife. So in the Bhagavad Gita also, Lord explains to Arjuna how the society is filled with Varna Shankara. Varna Shankara is nothing but unwanted population. And because the society is today filled with this Varna Shankara population, the whole society is degraded and there is no peace and prosperity in the society. The next sloka, that is sloka number 7, gives the names of the children of Yajna and Dakshina. About 12 boys they had, and all of them they became demigods. Yajna took up the ruling of the universe, and the 12 children of his they all became demigods, assisting the Supreme Lord in the universal management of. So this is what I have for this class today. Next 2-3 minutes, if you have got any questions, any comments, I can take it. Any questions, any comments, anybody? If no comments, questions, can I take the class as closed?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I had one doubt. Like, we see in the third canto, Kardamuni pastime. So he takes devotee for after the tapasya. So he takes for the like a kind of a trip or something.
Yes.
So in Grihastha Ashram, we say like we should keep Krishna in center. So, but he
Yes.
did that also. So
Yes.
how we can manage that?
Okay. Generally, it is said that the time of union, the atmosphere should be pleasant enough. Kardamuni wanted to give, because Devahuti served Kardamuni in such a way that her body became very skinny in the process of serving him. But then, when they wanted to go for progeny, they wanted to change that environment of atmosphere of renunciation completely. So they basically, it was not a material, though he created a material opulence. Neither he nor she was attached to it. So it was only for a purpose of creating a proper environment. Katamuni developed that aerial mansion and took around the universe, not for creating a materialistic, opulent environment, but basically a positive environment for their union. If one is in a very abominable condition, the environment need not be necessarily positive for union. So Kardamani did that just to so that she becomes happy.
Okay, it was like a temporary
Yeah, it was
arrangement or
temporary. It was
something.
temporary. It was temporary. Otherwise,
Yes.
it was already decided before itself that he would leave home as soon as he has got children. And both of them did not unite for any sense gratification. They united for the purpose of a higher purpose. That's how the Lord was born in their house.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for
Thank you.
clarification.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, then thank you all very much. Granta